All right, guys, welcome to the interview with Kathryn Jones.
Hello!
She's one of my mentors, the instructor and co-founder or CEO, right, of the CF Design School, where you use Clickfunnels to build websites. You transform ugly sites to beautiful sites.
Yes.
So, yeah, Kathryn, just introduce yourself, how you got started and your background and things like that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm super excited to be here. I'm so excited to be here and meet you like more officially. It's like so fun because you comment a ton of my stuff. So I was like really excited when I said I got to do an interview with you today. But yeah, honestly, so the story's kind of a little bit crazy. It kind of cracks me up. It actually makes me giggle that like I'm considered like the go-to design girl because one, I like never was good at design, and two, also like I was never actually trying to be an entrepreneur. What ended up happening, so I was in school, I was studying film, and I left like 3 years into my degree to go do a 1.5 year mission trip for my church. And I went to Los Angeles and it was amazing, but I got to kind of see the film world, and I was just like, I don't know, I just became like disenchanted with it. I was like, I don't think I want to do that anymore, which was a problem because I came back and I literally had 3 years done of my degree and I was like, I don't want to do that. I had no idea what I wanted to do, right? It was just like, oh, it was just terrible. So I come back and maybe, are you a millennial as well? How old are you?
I just turned 33.
33. Okay, listen,
Yeah.
We're in the same realm. So I'm 29. So we're close. And so I come back and the only thing that I know that I want to do, Bobby, is like, I am like the stereotypical millennial where it's like I want to apologize on behalf of our generation because I'm the person that perpetuated these stereotypes, because I come home and I was just like, I just want to help people. You know, it's like the really annoying millennials. Like, I just want to help people. But I had no idea how to do that. I had no idea what that looked like. And so I just started reading a bunch of like personal finance books, which I was like, well, I guess like the thing that would help me, the only thing that I know is it's probably easier to help people if I have like a little bit of money. And that was it. That was all I could think of. So I was like, started read personal finance books, which led me to investment books, which led me to like self-help books. And eventually people like started selling me courses. And I was like, oh, this is like so intriguing. And also this concept like, oh my, you can make money online, like for real. I was like, what? This is crazy. And I'm in college at the time. So I was like, this is nuts. And also I start to discover this concept of like online business, that like, this is like really a thing. And it just like, I don't know if you experienced this as well, Bobby, but also I was like, it just like hit me where I was like, I have to learn everything I know about this. Reason one, it's cool. And second reason too, so I grew up in a family with 8 kids. So I'm the second oldest of 8 kids, just like so many humans, but so fun. And I always wanted to be, my parents are so cool. They're so rad, Bobby. And I always wanted to be like my mom, always wanted to be a mother. But I also knew that I wanted to take over the world. Like I knew that I had those two things. And for so long, I didn't know if I could do both. Like, was it even possible to be like a really present, dope mom one day and also change the world? Like, could I do that? And so when I discovered internet marketing, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, maybe if I'm just like not an idiot about this, like maybe I could build a business that would let me do both. Like, would that be possible? And so I think I just became like super obsessed. And so getting into this, I start this like marketing agency, funnel agency. And I would have clients some days, Bobby, where like I remember one time we had a client, killed it, just crushed it, right? And I just remember being like, I am incredible. I own the internet. Like anything is possible, right? And then my very next client bombed, right? And it was like, I don't know anything. I'm quitting the internet. I'm never coming back, right? And so like my results are all over the place. And not only was this frustrating in the sense that my results were all over the place, but it was frustrating in the sense where it's like, listen, if I can't figure out how to get consistent results, there's no way in heck I'm going to be able to like possibly create some sort of like automated business, right? So I could like be a mother one day. Like there was just no way. And so I think probably my determination to figure out what was going on was maybe a little bit more obsessed than other people. Cause I was like, I gotta figure this out. And what was crazy in me trying to figure out like what actually was like the determining factor of whether our stuff would kill it or whether it wasn't. In my research, all of a sudden I started to find like studies from Google and Stanford, and what they said is that what they found is that people determined the credibility of websites in 0.05 seconds, which is ludicrous. Like 0.05, that's you can't even like start and stop your timer fast enough on your phone, right? For that. And Bobby, what's even crazier is that in that 0.05 seconds, over 90% of what they're judging is your design, which I was like, what? So it's like, you might have the best product in the world or the best service in the world, or you might be the guru of all gurus, but if your design isn't what people are expecting it to be, then you're dead in the water. Like people aren't even gonna like stay on your site long enough to see what you're selling. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I discovered this and like two things happened. Number one, I was thrilled, right? Because I was like, that's the lever. Like that's the lever for conversions. The second thing was I'm screwed. I don't know anything about design, right? Like this is terrible. Like, like I'm happy that I found it, but I don't know how to do any of this. And I didn't know how to code, and I wasn't like naturally artistic, and I'd never taken a graphic design course. I didn't know Photoshop. But honestly, I think that like that actually like my lack of natural ability was probably my saving grace, because I think born out of stubbornness, I was like, I don't want to learn how to code. Like, I don't want to be a designer, which is, again, hilarious. Like, I was like, I don't want to be a designer. I just want my stuff to work. I just want to know how to take a product and sell it and make sure that it sells. That's all I want to do. And so people kept telling me to learn design, like, oh, you need to go to coding boot camp or go learn Photoshop. And I was just like, barf, that sounds terrible. I was like, I don't want to do that. And so one day, again, and I think this was like, again, like a divine inspiration gift. I'm like very structured. I love formulas, like very systematic, like self-diagnosed OCD. You know, it's like I love my checklists. Like I believe in like structure and order. All of a sudden one day I was like, what if design isn't an art? Like, what if it's not? What if it's just like a science? Like, what if it's just very formulaic? Is it possible that design doesn't have to be this like ambiguous, like nebulous thing where either got it or you don't? Like, could design just be like a series of steps to take and a series of decisions to make and a series of tools to use? Like, could that be possible? And it was honestly almost annoying, Bobby, how fast that hypothesis proved to be true. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, I've been struggling with this for years. I'm like, this works, you know? So I started playing on my own stuff, this formulaic approach to design and using that as the lever for conversions. Crazy how it worked. Started doing it for our clients. Crazy how it worked. Ended up packaging it up into CF Design School. And again, like it is just fascinating that with this realm of funnels that literally there are 6 different things that you need to find patterns in amongst top converting sites that you model within your own to be able to have design that converts. And once again, we figured out that lever, it was just like the missing link between we're killing it, I don't know anything, right? To like, oh my gosh, any product we want, we know how to launch it out into the world in a way that we know is going to sell. And again, from then we've been able to kind of expand that concept into videos and podcasts and copy and stage, all about how do you present stories and offers across all medium to the world in a way that converts. And from there, we've just been like expanding this movement of design hacking ever since.
Yeah, I gotta agree. So that's how I got started too, just reading a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then
yes, Robert.
Susie Orman.
Robert was the one.
What was your first book?
Mine was I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Have you heard of that one by Ramit Sethi?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, that was my first one. And then it was game over ever since.
So yeah, any of you guys had that one book that started this journey for you guys? Just comment down below. I'm curious to see what book started that off as well.
Yes. It is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. So the other thing is you're talking about podcasts, YouTube channels, and your group and your event.
Yes.
Was that like, did that happen all overnight, or what led that? What led to that?
Such a good question. So, okay, this is such a fun question. So launched CF Design School June of 2018. So it's been 2 years, which sometimes is just crazy to me. So it's been 2 years. So we launch it and we start to get people in and people start to get results, like legit, really cool. And so we're about a year in and it's May of 2019. So just about a year later. So just this last year. And we're starting to get results, but we're just still struggling. Like it's not like exploding yet, right? And for me, I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, this stuff it works. Like, why isn't like everybody and their dog jumping onto this, right? Like, this is amazing. And I was sitting at a conference in May 2019. It was in Phoenix. And I am sitting in this audience. There's like 1,500 other entrepreneurs in there. And I am watching this person present on stage, and this person was like one of my biggest competitors. So I had a few competitors at the time, but like this person was like one of my biggest ones. And she was like, here I am, like lowly little me in the audience. And here she is, my competitor, right on stage, like backed by this huge company and like dropping her product name. And I'm just like, I'm dead in the water. Like, what, how am I supposed to like beat this machine, right? Like, and the thing that's amazing about this competitor is like, she's incredible. Like, she actually is amazing. Like, she's so smart, and we teach things so differently. And I think there's probably like merit to each, but like she's not done. Like, she should have had the accolades that she had. And so I'm like looking at this person, and I'm just like, how am I going to, how, right? Like, I'm in the audience, they're on stage, they're backed by this huge company, nobody knows my name. And this is just a year ago, right? And so I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it's me, and I have one other person working for me. Her name's Rachel. She's amazing. And she's been working with me for a while, and she lived in the Philippines. So it's just the two of us, right? It's just the two, and we're just trying. We're just trying. And like, we're still doing all customer support and like everything, right? Like, we're drowning. And so I'm looking like, how can we do this? How can we do this? I'm feeling super overwhelmed. And then all of a sudden it's like, how do you beat the machine? How do you beat this machine? How do you beat the machine? And all of a sudden this phrase comes to my head where it's like, you beat a machine with a movement. And I was like, oh my gosh. First of all, I was like, thank you, God. That was brilliant. I like write it down. Like, you beat a machine with a movement. I was like, okay. So I'm like, what does that mean? Like, okay. Like, you beat a machine with a movement. I'm like, well then how do you start a movement? And all of a sudden it became so clear to me as well. I was like, you start a movement by telling stories. You start a movement with a story. And I started to think about things in history where it's like Martin Luther King, I have a dream, right? Or like the story of Rosa Parks. Like, the reason why that became so big, it was a story. She didn't give up her seat on the bus, right? And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we need a story. We need a movement. And so in that conference was born, like, all of a sudden I was like, here's what we're going to do. We're me and my other person, two of us, right? Like, our team's at 9 right now, 2 of us at that point. And so I'm like, here's what we're going to do. Hashtag Operation Smoke 'em Out. That's what we decided. We called it Operation Smoke 'em Out, where we were going to be so strategically loud about the stories we were telling across all mediums that people wouldn't even know our competitors existed, because we would smoke them out of the room. It was like, they wouldn't even know, because they wouldn't even hear about them anymore. We were to be so loud with the stories that we told. There would be no way that they would even know that they existed. And so we started this process of, what does it look like? We're really good at presenting stories and offers that convert on funnels. Can we do the same thing with video? Can we do the same thing with social? Can we do the same thing with podcasts? And then all of a sudden we started to figure out what it was that actually worked when it came to presenting stories that converted in videos and in podcasts. And we started to do this across all mediums and transforming everything into a story, right? Like even CF Design School, for example, right? Like, we never used to have graduations. That was never part of the original thing. It was like, how can we turn this beautiful product into a story? It's like, oh my gosh, let's have a graduation where we celebrate. Or it's not just a course. It's like, oh my gosh, look what happened in this person's life. Look what they did. It's like this amazing story, right? And like, all of a sudden reaching out to Russell Brunson. It wasn't just like, hey, Russell, can you notice me? It was like, we told this beautiful story. We're like, hey, do you want to be a part of the story? Do you want to be a part of this? And we started to do the same thing with joint ventures. We started to do the same thing with social. We started to do the same thing in doing press tours with people. And like, all of a sudden we like start to figure out that there's a pattern of the stories that we're telling and how we're telling these stories that are getting people to jump on board. And not just jump on board where it's like, oh, design hacking is kind of cool, but jump on board where they're like evangelists, where they're not only like, okay, I'm going to follow you, but like, hey, I'm going to share all your stuff. Your stuff is so cool. And it was amazing. And do you want to know what the pattern was? This is what's nuts. And again, there are nuances to funnels and videos and Instagram lives and Facebook lives that we go a little bit deeper into in our community. But the basis of it, whether something converted, it was whether it followed the following framework. This is it. It's so crazy. It's if you tell a story that starts with something that we call a nab. So it's almost like a pattern interrupt. But I love the word nab, where it's just like, yoink, like you're scrolling, we're nabbing you. We're just taking you out, right? Like a pattern interrupt. We're like, wait, what is that? Then once we nab them, we take them down to what we call ground zero. We're just like, hey, now that we have your attention, we're going to tell you a story, but like, let me tell you the basis of it. Here's the characters involved. Here's where we were, right? But then like any good story, there has to be some conflict. So we call this doom. Introduce some moment of doom where you're like, oh, freak, something's going on, right? And then because we're design hackers and we want it to convert, we don't just want to like give them off too easy, right? We want to make the story hurt where they're like, wait, what happens? So we take this moment of doom and we escalate it. And the easiest way to escalate a conflict is to add scarcity, where it's like, oh my gosh, and if Kathryn doesn't figure this out, she's gonna run out of money. She like her company's dead, right? Or like she doesn't figure it, she's running out of time. Like the deadline's due tomorrow. And then what we do is we present the solution. So it's like, oh my gosh, like they're feeling so relieved because they went through this like crazy thing with me, right? And then we invite them to become a part of the solution. So NAB, ground zero, doom, escalate, solution, invitation. And if whatever you're telling, whether it's in copy in a funnel or on a video or on a Facebook Live or in a podcast interview, like if you can start telling stories through this way, all of a sudden people really start to buy into what you have to say. And it's no longer just like, oh, she's doing something cool. It's like, oh my gosh, her story is my story. Like that, like, how's that girl telling my story? You're like, oh my gosh. And again, when you tell a story in this way, it goes from Kathryn telling a story or Bobby telling a story to all of a sudden people don't just listen and be like, oh, that's a cool story. All of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, that's not a story. That's my story. That's like it becomes their story. Like, oh my gosh. And because it becomes their story and they're like, that's my pain, right? And they see that you have a solution. All of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, Kathryn gets me. Bobby gets me. Like that's what was happening. And so when all of a sudden you present a solution, they're like, I can't go anywhere else. I can't go anywhere else to get the solution because Bobby's the only one that understands me. Because his story is my story. Oh my gosh. Like I can't go anywhere else. And again, like because we started to tell these stories, we started to rise from a nobody sitting in the audience of a stage to literally taking over every single competitor, where we became the undeniable number one guru in our space, simply because people started to resonate and they were like, her story is my story, which means that her solutions can be my solutions, which means that I'm not going anywhere else. I'm not going anywhere else. Like Kathryn's the only one that can help us. Bobby's the only one that can help us. And so again, like, are there nuances to what that looks like in a video? Sure. Are there nuances to what that looks like in an Instagram post? Yes. But the basis is the same. It's, can we actually tell stories that grab people's attention, make them feel like they're part of it? Oh my gosh, their conflict is my conflict. And because we present a solution, all of a sudden our solution become their solution. And then they become like evangelists where they'll share your stuff and they'll buy your stuff because they're like, oh my gosh, Bobby understands me. Like he's the only one that understands me. And yes, it's just been so fun to be able to see, like when we started intentionally doing that 8-9 months ago, what's happened. I mean, we've gone from struggling to 7 figures and 2 employees to 9, from like sitting in the stage to speaking on Funnel Hacking Live 2020 stage. And again, it was all because we figured out how to present stories that convert across all mediums, which is, it's awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah, I remember when you were promoting your event, and that's how you actually promoted it. But now I realize that framework,
Yeah.
and it worked very well.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. RJ has a question. Let's see. So
Yes.
Kathryn, what's the difference between a video which are engaging and which are not? As you said in our interview, there is a framework for that.
Totally. And so again, the framework, RJ, which also, hi RJ, how are you? The framework's the same way I just said. You want to start with a NAB, something that grabs their attention. One really good example that I love to share is from somebody named Garrett White. Have you heard of Garrett White before, Bobby?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he had this Instagram post a little bit ago, and his NAB, his pattern interrupt, like it was the title to his Instagram caption or whatever. It was in all caps and it said, "I almost killed my baby." And I was like, what? Right? And so you talk about a NAB, right? Like I'm scrolling. I almost killed my baby. I read that. I was like, what? I was like, are you kidding me? And because he grabbed my attention, all of a sudden, when he started to establish the story, I was like, wait, so what? And he introduced this whole thing. And so by the end, he like tells the story about, and like the ground zero is like me and my wife, we've been together for like 18 years, conflict, we like have troubles, like were we going to get divorced, escalate the problem. We literally almost got divorced last year, but here's how we found the solution. And as part of like solidifying that, we decided to have a baby together. It was like this new part of our whole thing. But if we hadn't figured that out, I would have killed my baby. Like if we hadn't have figured it out, like I almost killed my baby because I didn't save my marriage. And here's how you can do the same, invitation. And it was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I'm not even his customer target. He targets men. And I'm like, wait, can I buy what you're selling right now? I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Just absolutely incredible. And so I think like that's number one. It's like actually following that that framework for sure in terms of engaging. But I love that, like the difference between an engaging video and a not. I don't know how many of you have like, it's like you see somebody's going live and you're like, you get a notification like, oh, so-and-so's going live, right? And it might even be me. We'll throw me under the bus, right? Where it's like, Kathryn's going live. And you're like, okay, I'll check her out, right? And then it's like, listen, I didn't have a good nap. I didn't have something engaging at the beginning. So you like watch me for like 20 seconds. You're like, listen, I tried to support you, but you're boring. So you just leave. How many of you have done that? Where you're like, I'm going to watch you live. And you're like, you're on live for like 20 seconds. And you're like, okay, actually, I'm out of here. Like all the time I do that with people, right? Where it's like, you have a second to impress me. And then it's like, sorry, I'm out. And again, why does that happen? Why do people bounce all the time? Even if you have the most important things to say, there's so many good products and amazing people that are genius whose businesses fall by the wayside, not because they're stupid and not because their product or service is bad. It's simply because they don't know how to present it in a way to keep people's attention. And following this framework of NAB, ground zero, introduce conflict. So they're like, wait, there's an open loop. I can't leave, right? Escalate it. So it's like, I really can't leave now, right? Introduce the solution where like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then invite them to come into your thing. That's really what's going to be like the biggest differentiating factor between somebody that sticks around to watch the entire video to somebody that's like, okay, no, I'm good.
Yeah, it's back to the millennial thing. We're a microwave culture. Like you can't get their attention in like 5 or 10 seconds. We're out of there.
Well, yes, and what's even crazy too, we didn't even know shorter than that. It's a 20th of a second. You have a 20th of a second, which is crazy to catch somebody and keep somebody's attention.
Yeah, it was also another question. So they're saying, you're designing websites, but I have no tech skills. I've never designed a website before. How do you start?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, welcome. You're my people. Literally have no idea how to code, never used Photoshop, and never taken a graphic design course. And I'm literally considered the #1 funnel design guru. So what I'm trying to say is if I can do it, you can do it, okay? But I think that's one of the most beautiful things. If we start to approach design as a science rather than an art, we get to skip a lot of steps. And one of the steps that, and I think one of the reasons why this flagship program that I have, CF Design School, has been so successful is because it does allow you don't have to know how to code. And if you're not a techie person, literally doesn't matter, right? To be able to design websites that convert, it's literally a matter of figuring out patterns. So what design patterns are actually working that will bring us success, and then literally compiling tools that other people have made to put it together. So I personally teach in Clickfunnels. I think that is like one of the best funnel building softwares that I've tried. People are like diehards for other ones. If you want to stick on your other ones, it doesn't matter. Whatever, you can do whatever. I think Clickfunnels is the most customizable, so I'll preach that to the end of my days. But if you're not techie, honestly, literally, we show you how to utilize the tech skills of other people who have built amazing softwares so that we can get similar results without having to go to coding bootcamp, without having to use Photoshop. And so everything that you would need coding or everything that you would need Photoshop, you can find with cheap or free web tools online. But the reason why people don't do that already is because it feels like it should be harder. So people are like, wait, no, like I should probably go learn Illustrator. I should probably go learn the Adobe Suite. I should probably go learn coding. It's like, no, you guys, listen, let me show you how to do this. And so inside our program, CF Design School, I literally show, we have this thing called money by the weekend. It's like this thing where it's like, listen, your goal is to make money by the weekend of the day that you join. So if you join today on Friday, right? Like most people join on, we do a lot of like webinars on Thursdays. Most people join on Thursdays or Fridays and say, hey, can you make money by this weekend? And what's so amazing about this process, because it's so scientific and formulaic, and again, we take out the tech aspect of it, literally people can go from knowing nothing, having zero tech skills, to not only knowing the skill set of how to design funnels that convert, but also knowing how to sell them. So we have people 2 days in that are making $25,000, $5,000, $7,500, $10,000, simply because when you approach this problem, this opportunity, right, of how do you build websites that convert in a non-traditional way, which is not coding, not Photoshop, not tech skills, you're able to get non-traditional results. And I think that is the beauty of design hacking, is how, like, if you break up the word design and hacking, right? Design literally means to curate a plan for a specific end. Hacking means efficiently. So it's like, how can we do this, and how can we do it fast? How can we make this happen? And that's what we do inside of CF Design School. So again, like how do we bypass the tech skills necessary One, we play the game. We have a whole other set of rules than everybody else, which allows us to skip a lot of steps. Two, we approach it like a science, a formula instead of art. And then three, we use and utilize the tools that other people have built to, again, allow us to expedite our learning process by actual literal years. God bless. Are you kidding me? We're too busy. Yeah. Who has time for that?
Well, if you had to start all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh, such a good question. Okay, I would love to hear your answer as well. Okay, though I think the thing that this is the thing I would totally do differently. Is I waited way too long to give myself permission to win. Like I felt like I wasn't deserving of it and I needed to study harder. So like CF Design School started 2 years ago, but like I've been dabbling around since 2014, right? And so like for 3 or 4 years, I was just taking courses and doing all these things, but I felt like I needed to know more, learn more. And I really do. I wish I would have given myself permission to play bigger, faster. And for me, what that eventually ended up looking like 2 years ago, was when I hired a coach for real. And I'm going to be honest, I couldn't afford her. But I literally burned the ship and I was like, well, I got to figure out how to pay her. So I had enough to pay her for 1 round. And then I was like, literally, I owe this woman money in 30 days. So I better figure it out. I burned the ship. And it was so stressful, Bobby. I literally within 24 hours was in the hospital with an ulcer. I was so stressed because I was like, what am I doing? Like, I just went all in on my dreams and I have no money to pay her. And how am I going to figure this out? And I've only ever made this much money before. And she costs this much money, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do this. But it was the best thing that ever happened because I finally said, I am doing this. Like, I made this huge financial investment that forced me to play and forced me to really say, do I actually think that I can build what I say I'm going to build? And once I made that decision and finally gave myself permission to actually play and actually go, it was brutal. I mean, I was in the hospital with an ulcer and it was so stressful, but it was also so empowering because all of a sudden something tweaked in my brain where it wasn't like, oh, it'd be really cool if I could figure it out. But it was like, I literally have to figure this out or I don't eat anymore. And again, there's ways to play the game. Like, there's some people that are like, hey, never quit your job before this or like blah, blah, blah. I think there's 900 right ways to do it. But I think the only wrong way to do it is to not go all in, whatever that looks like for you. And again, I wish that I would have had the courage years earlier to say, we can do this. We can do this. So yeah, I would say give yourself permission to actually play the game, because the people that are making a ton of money, they're the exact same as people that are making a ton of money. They just figured out a few things. That's it.
As for me, like I guess self-confidence, saying that, oh, I'm not good enough.
Yes.
I should have just took imperfect action.
Yes.
That's what I would have done from day one.
Dude, you and me both. Yes. Yeah. And again, like, it's really amazing to like all of a sudden be friends with my mentors. Like, it's a really interesting thing where like these people that I just like idolized for so long, like now I'm homies with them. It's like this really interesting thing to like, oh, like I have like Russell on Voxer and I have so-and-so on text. And it's like, what? That's crazy. Like, I used to just read your guys' books and now we're friends. And I think the thing that's amazing about all these humans is that they are just that. They're just humans that just started and decided to not stop. And they just got smarter and smarter by the day. But like, Russell's a genius, but he didn't start a genius. And like, you know what I mean? You're just like, oh, he just kept going. That's all. Like, what Russell did is he just kept going and realizing that, that the humans at the top, at the end of the day, they're just humans. They're just humans. And so starting that process of building and growing and having confidence, like you said, oh my gosh, I just wish I would have had the fortitude and the courage to play to play bigger sooner.
Yeah. So another thing that my mentors have told me is, yeah, you have problems now, but you also have, once you level up, you have a new problem. So
yeah.
yeah. So what's your current problem?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. What is my current problem? Well, you want to know what's so interesting is like, this is such, Bobby, you're killing it with questions. What I think is so interesting is, yeah, like before, like I remember just being like, I've got to get my Facebook ads to convert. Like I've got to figure out my Facebook. That was like my biggest problem. Like I can't figure out Facebook ads. I can't figure out Facebook ads. I don't even think about Facebook ads anymore. Give me a higher amount. Like it's like out of sight, out of mind. But it's really interesting now where it's like, where like that they don't feel as big, like you almost expect the problems. I think that's like the biggest difference now, where it's like before it was just like, oh, if I can just figure out my Facebook ads, then everything will be better. And now I think I've matured to the point where it's like something is always going to be wrong, always, right? And so it's like all of a sudden I'm hiring an attorney. Right? It's like right now we have an attorney working for us. So it's like, I didn't even realize, if you would have asked me 7 months ago why I was going to hire an attorney, like, why would I need an attorney, right? So like an attorney and a law team. And we have somebody on the back end doing all our finances, where before it was like small enough that I could do it. But I do think that that's the game, right? Where it's like, because like right now it's like, what problems do you have? A million problems, Bobby. I have a million. Look at my to-do list. I have a million problems. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how many, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, like, let's just do our event alone, right? Where it's like, our event was in person, now it's online. So it's like, okay, shoot, what are we going to do? Blah, blah. How do we make sure that people feel taken care of? Blah, blah. Okay, well, maybe we'll give them a free ticket to next year. Okay, cool. So that means I probably need to put aside $60,000. That's going to hit me $60K. But it's like, but we want to make sure that we serve them and they feel like I'm taking care of them. So like, is that the right thing to do? Yes. Okay, that's the right thing to do. So how do we find 60K? Or where do we take 60K from, right? So it's like, okay, figure that out. And it's like, okay, well, what about tech? Or all of a sudden something's breaking because we have too much volume. And it's like, that's annoying. That worked when we had 3,000 visitors. And now that we have 3,500 visitors, it breaks. And you're like, okay, we're fixing it again. And even things where it's like people want to buy stuff from you. They're like, hey, can I buy your intellectual property? And you're like, no. Or maybe if you're like, yes, you're like, I don't even know how to do that. How do you even approach that? I have no idea what to do. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think like what's my biggest problem? I honestly couldn't even tell you, but I do think that is like one of the things that I'm grateful for, that I've realized, is that as an entrepreneur, your job is to solve problems. You volunteer to raise your hand and say, we're going to fix this, whatever it looks like. And so to not be like, oh my gosh, like this, like, will it ever end? And realizing that it's never going to end. Like it's never going to end. And the process that I think of a CEO is to continually bring people onto your team that you don't have to put out as many fires. It's like, oh, I have people that can do my customer support fires now. I don't have to do those anymore, right? And I have people that can do my tech fires. I don't do my tech fires anymore. I have people that can do my content fires. I don't have to do my content fires anymore. And so you just perpetually get to work on bigger and bigger problems, which then it actually becomes fun. Where it's like, oh my gosh, this is cool. A year and a half ago, I would never even thought that I would have to be trying to solve this. So I don't know how to answer that question other than the fact that I have a million, and I think probably I will forever.
Yeah. I just want to focus on that, because entrepreneurs, we have different problems every day. So, and I want to second that as well. Like you're always going to have a problem. Yeah. And what you said stuck out to me, because what I learned was, you don't have to know how to do everything. You got to find the who, like attorney, your Facebook ad managers and things like that. You're always going to have to find the who as an entrepreneur. So definitely a good thing.
Totally. Could not agree more. That's such a good question.
Especially, I remember when you were planning a live event and everything was going well, and then boom, this pandemic happened. Oh my God.
Yeah, like a week and a half before, like literally 2 weeks before, and we were like, oh, we have to cancel. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, shoot, we have a problem. Like we're out X amount of tens of thousands of dollars because we have our space on the event. We have our deposit on the space. And so you're like, okay, shoot. It's like, I literally have $10,000 worth of swag in my house right now. It's like, what are we going to do with that? Like, oh my gosh, like blah, blah, blah. But yeah, you figure it out. Like, and I do think like, especially like with all the, like, there's so like with all the sensitivity in the world, like everything that's happening with Corona as well, like just realizing that it's like, if it's not a global pandemic, it's something else. Like and I think I love what I can see this comment from Frank where he's like, one thing that cured my overwhelm is the realization in my business that the work of my business will never be done. There's always things to learn. Oh my gosh, I think that's like Frank, like freaking crushed it, nailed it on the head, right? And where the key to quote unquote winning is to figure out how to adapt with change. Because if it's not a global pandemic, it's gonna be the economy crashes again. And if it's not the economy crashing again, it's all of a sudden we're introducing virtual reality, right? And if it's not virtual reality, it's like whatever. It's like, how can you learn to adapt with the change in a way that still allows you to thrive and your humans, your tribe to thrive? And again, but I think Frank said it better than I ever could have. Like realizing that actually is the joy of entrepreneurship, that the work's never done.
All right, so if you guys are excited, we're coming up in a half hour, and so if you guys are excited and you appreciate Kathryn giving us all that knowledge, just give me a thumbs up, subscribe, give me hearts, and if you guys are ready for my last question, say yes down in the comments.
Nice.
So I guess my last question is, I guess not really a curveball. So what's next for you? You've built a tribe. You're doing a live event. What is next for you?
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. So one of the things that I am really, really passionate about is okay, I'm trying to think like, how can I say this without my team getting mad at me for revealing too much? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Here's how we're gonna do it. One of the things that I am really passionate about is helping good people and good causes to go out into the world. And again, we've been so fortunate to be able to help so many people, especially in our agency, just like dope people that have the coolest stuff, but like have no freaking idea how to sell it, right? Because they just don't know. And what's so beautiful and like what we're seeing, whether it's in our agency clients or with the people in our online programs, is that we've figured out how it is that they actually win. Like, how is it that somebody goes from being a no name to a number one? What does that look like? And we figured out that there's 3 components. And so what's next is like, oh my gosh, are we just going to introduce all these? So number one is you actually have to have marketing frameworks that work, right? Like you actually have to know what you're doing marketing wise, but you also have to marry that with alignment here. Like there's such a head game, like where you're talking about, you and I were like, oh, I wish we just would have played bigger, faster. There's actually a science behind how to cultivate that. And when you can marry marketing practices with what's going on here, oh my gosh. And then, so it's like, okay, we have marketing stuff, we have mindset stuff. And then what we want to do, like almost triangle, is like, how can we start doing this and making this a daily practice? Boom, boom, boom. And so honestly, what's coming up next is marrying these concepts. We're like crushing it in the marketing game right now, but our tribe is begging for coaching. And so what we're super excited about, honestly, coming out in the first, like, if you guys want to come, it's going to be the first and second week of August. We're doing this huge workshop all about how to become the number one go-to expert in your niche. And it combines these things: marketing tactics, mindset, daily practices. And so right now we have softwares being built and apps being built to help this concept become a thing, so that people like you and me, Bobby, we don't wait 2 years to actually build the stuff. We're like given the tactics that actually work, and we're given the coaching and the community to actually have the headspace to go do it, as well as the softwares to make it a daily practice. And so marrying these 3 things is what we're doing right now, so that we can become way more than just a cool tribe of internet marketers, but rather a group of people that are so sure in who they are and so clear on what they want to build. Because I think when you can curate that, that's when not only businesses take over the world, but that's when homes change and communities change and nations change for the better. So marrying marketing with mindset and softwares is what's coming down the pipeline, and very soon. So if you guys want to come hang out, it's in my free Facebook group, Design Hackers Official. It's happening the first week of August, in like 2 weeks. So come hang out with us. It's going to be amazing.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. So I'll drop the link in the description in the comment. So that starts when? August?
First week of August. I think it's like the 3rd or something.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. So that, like I said, that concludes the interview. Thanks for coming on my show. Appreciate it.
Amazing. I'm so happy we finally got to meet.
I know.
It's awesome.
So yeah, hopefully your next live event we'll meet in real life.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen. Listen, we're playing hard to get with each other, you and me. But the global pandemic, we're gonna figure it out one day. And yeah, I can't wait to meet you in real life for real.
All right.
Amazing.
Okay, guys. You guys have a good night.
Thanks, Bobby. Bye.
Bye.